What's up, YouTube? Here is my tier list guide for the last patch of 6.5. Let's just go straight into what I think is the best comps that you can play to consistently top 4 every single game. Straight away, it's going to be pretty much all AD comps. AD comps are just, for many reasons, way more consistent, way more easy to get those 4th, 3rd, and 2nds every game. You know, you might not get a first unless you get a Jace 2 and some legendaries or whatever, but these comps I show you would definitely play your strongest board and able to hit on level 8. You're going to always top 4. For the very first comp, you want to get Ashe 3, Zyra 3. I mean, Ashe 3 pretty much is going to guarantee you the top 4. If you can get Zyra 3 and Morgana 3, you're definitely going to probably get a first, or I think at least a second. Kind of depends on the lobby, kind of depends on your augments and items, but it's usually 8 times out of 10 a top 2. But you never know. I would say these items are what I think is probably best for all the comps. If you can either do Giant Slayer or Runaan's. Against bruisers, Giant Slayers are really good. Non-bruisers, Runaan's are going to be a little bit better. If you always need, Last Whisper is probably the best AD item you can use for any of these carries. And then if you can get IE Last Whisper, that's pretty good. The third item doesn't really matter. The items on Jhin are items you can use on Ashe as well. You can substitute any of these items for maybe a third item, or even if you get all these items on Ashe, as long as you're staying ahead of the entire lobby, you're going to top 4. I like to put Morgana on the very edge in front of their enemy carries. That way she can tank as much as possible, and it gives Braum a chance to cast twice as much as possible. And then you can always put Ori and Jhin in front of Silco if you feel like you really need that extra boost, the extra second for them to cast. However, if there's a lot of AoE damage, you definitely want to kind of separate your team a little bit and like separate Jhin and Ashe. That way kind of gives you that extra time to maybe take out that one last unit that's walking up to them in the back line. That being said, let's go over to Strikers. Strikers is actually more flexible than what people really think. All you need is 4 Strikers. I just put on all 5 Strikers that you can put in. You can take out J4. You don't really need Aurelia most of the time. She's not the best consistent champ, and she doesn't really give any utility in the team, except Jarvan at least gives some utility. Here's a full tank Alistar you can use. You can also use Frozen Heart. Morello's really bad. I really try to avoid Morello's as much as possible. Onyx is a better item than Morello's now, so I always try to, if you can build Onyx, it's pretty good. And then you can play Vi, Sejuani, and Jace for 3 Enforcer. You can play Blitz Braum frontline. You can play Seraphine for more attack speed. You can pretty much put anything as long as you have 4 Strikers and these AD items. IE Last Whisper is really good, and any third items do you justice, give you a good top 4. As long as you have 4 Strikers, that's all that matters. And if you have a Striker emblem, you put in 6 Strikers, it definitely helps. Striker emblems on Jinx is pretty well. As long as you have BT, Rageblade definitely helps, or Edge of Night is really good as well. If you want to play the Hextech version of this, 6 Hextech or 8 Hextech Sivir, you want to Rageblade and Shiv. And then the third item doesn't really matter. It can be QSS or Edge of Night, or it can be another AD item too. So like Last Whisper, Runaan's, would definitely usually does pretty well and gives you top 4s. Oh, also, if you're gonna put some tank items on Vi, here's my favorite tank items on Vi: Titan's Redemption, and then any AP item for the third item, or QSS. Pretty much anything really doesn't really matter what your tank items is. What if you're ever hit, and then make sure you slamming items early that makes sense. Here's a Hyrule comp. If you mainly play AP, here's let's say you play Mercs early and you get a really good cash out, you can try to play this comp. You get a 2-star Victor and all the legendaries, and you pretty much guarantee to the top 2. You know, you want to put in 4 bruiser, send times 6 bruisers, or you can put in 2 bruisers and put in Blitz Braum or Galio. Just depends on what you hit and how much money you have. If you can go 9, you pretty much just play as much legendaries as possible. You can play Jinx, Doesn't even matter if you play Vi. Jinx and Vi can still be on the same team because you're not playing a Jinx carry. Sen games also, some games are not a 1 with fast 9, and then some games you can have all 2 stars and you're still bot 4. It's a kind of volatile comp, but it has a very, very high cap, and if you can get to this board at level 9, you're pretty much guaranteed to win the game most times than not. Lastly, I'm going to show you all the innovators portions. Here's just the basic innovators. Here's the good Jin items. If you can't get Giant Slayer, you can use any of these items too. If you want to do Seraphine carry, you can do pretty much these items are definitely really well. I'll stay away from Morello's. Ionic Spark and Frozen Heart really good on Echo. Best way to get into this is to be aggressive and level early, and then have 80 items on 2-star Ezreal, and then just try to 2-star all your innovators, and you should be able to get to level 8 pretty easily. Here's a 4 clockwork version. I meant to put Draven instead of Senna, but you can also play Senna. It doesn't really matter. If you plan to 3-star Senna, you definitely want Morgana in instead of Camille and Jhin. It requires a lot of skill. A lot of challengers are playing Mutant, but it doesn't do really well in low elo because it definitely takes a lot of skill. Here's one version, is a Versus Appetite. You really only want one Zizirot, and then just make sure you have good items on Kaisa, because Kha'Zix is not usually going to do too well, and you definitely never want to play Cho'Gath ever. But yeah, don't try to like get 20 infinite Zizirots if you don't have any items for Kaisa or Kha'Zix. But Kha'Zix is a very good champ if you're able to have a really good front line. Otherwise, he's pretty much trash if you don't have any front lines. And then the rest is just different versions of the comp you see ahead. Here's Senna carry. This isn't the same enchanter comp that you see everybody's playing. It's just one version of it. Yeah. Oh yeah, 5 Syndicate Ari, by the way. I'm pretty sure this comp is super slept on too. I'm pretty sure this is better than the Arcanist, or it's about the same. Since the meta is slowed down a lot, 5 Syndicate Ashley is able to ramp up enough that Ari is able to get more cast off, because usually there's a lot of damage in the meta the last couple patches that 5 Syndicate wasn't really very good unless you have a good augment for it, because you just die before Ari even builds up. But now when there's not that much damage, 5 Syndicate Ari is pretty good. I wouldn't play 4 Enchanter though. This is a huge bait. I'll definitely play like anything but Lulu. I wouldn't play Lulu, and I don't really need Senna. If it's no one plays AP, so playing 4 Enchanter is like really useless. But play Blitz Braum, or you can play Canis or 4 Canis. Yeah, I mean, you don't really want to play the Socialite Hex either, because you definitely want to swap sides a lot. Because the best thing about Ari is that if you put them in front of their carry, you pretty much win the game. But if you put them on the opposite of the carry, if it's an even matchup, you lose. If you're already super stronger, it doesn't matter. But if it's an even matchup or they're stronger than you, you're gonna lose. But the thing about Ari is that even if the other team's stronger than you, if you're able to kill the carry pretty much in the start, you're gonna win the game. That's why positioning with Ari is like super important, especially if you play a 6 Arcanist or 8 Arcanist. It's super dependent on positioning, because you can go 8th and you can go 1st just based on position alone. Here's the Sivir. Didn't go over I kind of went over the 6 Hextech Sivir, but pretty decent. 6 Arcanist. This is just a high roll comp. Don't worry about the Jinx. I wouldn't ever really play Jinx. Arcanist spat on Jinx is not too bad. I definitely want to play like you definitely want an Arcanist spat, so you don't have to play Ziggs, or you don't have to play yeah, you pretty much want to replace Ziggs if possible, and play like Blitz Braum or some type of better frontline. And then here's the Lulu Redemption. I don't play this shit. This is gonna win streak you into stage 5, and you're never gonna win another game since. And this is the sole reason why you should never play AP either. It's because this is like super overplayed. I mean, I think people were like starting to realize it suck, and then stop playing it. I mean, if you high roll it, you can get a first. I mean, you can play the worst comp and like you can play 6 Jordals and get a first. It's possible. You're just super unlikely. You would have to like super high roll. Yeah, the best version of this is that you don't even try to 3-star everybody. You just play Quirky into fast 9 Jinx. That's honestly that's the best chance of you actually winning. I think, is there a version of that here? I mean, this is the closest version. Is Gangplank 3 Socialite Twin Shot. This is an old school comp. I'm pretty sure you should never play that, to be honest. I mean, even if you high roll, that is going to be pretty difficult to win. And then I already went over 4 Clockwork Draven. You can play Senna too if you never hit Draven. You can probably still fast 9. You play 4 Clockwork, and if you get 2 emblems, which is very likely in this, it's very likely to go 6 Clockwork or 9 Chemtech or 8 Hex Tech. Like, it's really easy to get the vertical champs now with how easy to get emblems now.